There you go. Knock it down. Yep.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with two-time IWGP champion Scott Norton, who was also in WCW. He was also an arm wrestling champion. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Doing excellent. How's the weather in New York compared to Minnesota?
Same. I live in Houston, Texas now, brother, so it's always hot. So the cold weather and me probably don't get along as well as I used to. You know, I got some nagging injuries and whatnot that kind of carried over from the business, but no, it's all good, man. It's good to be back in the old frigid temperatures.
I tried to look up a bunch of your arm wrestling stuff earlier, and there's not that much online on most basic searches. Could you tell us a little bit about your arm wrestling accomplishments?
Well, you know, the thing about it is, you know, arm wrestling's come a long way now. And it's if it was like that when I was in there, man, I'd never left. But, you know, I mean, I pulled 10 years right out of high school, and my goal is to be the best, you know, world champion. And, you know, I worked super hard trying to do that. And then there's a guy named Cleve Dean that came out, you know, 600 pounds, 6'10" dude that was just a complete monster. And for a long time, everybody was wrestling to be, you know, second. And I didn't do it that way. You know, I just concentrated on beating him. And I won a lot of tournaments coming up for 10 years. And then, you know, Over the Top was announced, and it was the biggest tournament of all time. And that was my focus. And, you know, it was my time. And I put it together, and I crushed him. You know, and I mean, it was my ultimate accomplishment goal in the business of arm wrestling. And shortly after that, I was offered a contract from New Japan to be a pro wrestler, and I changed courses. But you're not going to find a lot of video and a lot of tape because, you know, Wild World of Sports carried Petaluma, and Over the Top was not televised live, but it was part of the movie. And there's a lot of, you know, footage of that. And it just, you know, it's a different world now. You know, social media really brought it into the forefront. And Nick just handed me the, you know, Flash Sloan there. You know, he made our sport really big. But what these guys are doing today, you know, you got Devin Larratt's and Ryan Espy up in Canada. They're studs. And they're living the life that, you know, I wanted to get back into. I wanted to go back into professional arm wrestling once I, you know, was done with my professional wrestling career, you know, because I know that, you know, my technique might have left me, but power never left. But too many injuries. You know, I tore too many tricep muscles and biceps, and shoulders are bad. And it's something that it's not really something that's in the game plan. But man, if it was like it back in the day, I'd have never left. And I truly love that sport.
How were you recruited into the movie Over the Top? Was that just because you were involved in the real competition?
Well, you know, that was part of it. You know, when Marvin Cohn approached me with, you know, the tournament Over the Top, I took pretty much 18 months, 2 years off from Poland, and I knew that to beat Cleve, you know, nobody's ever beaten him. He's just a monster, and his hand was so huge that I just had to be stronger than anybody just walking the earth, and I accomplished that. I mean, I went to the gym, and I mean, I trained twice a day like a monster for 2 years. And when I came back, you know, Johnny Brzenk was really hot at the time, and he's continued to be hot through the 80s, 90s, 2000s until now. Just recently he retired. And they consider him the greatest of all time. I was playing with Johnny. I mean, he was was easy for me. And I'm not trying to disrespect this man because he's the best. He deserves what they're considering him as being the greatest of all time. But nobody beat Cleve yet, and I just completely obliterated that son of a gun. It was just awesome, but it's the business, I mean, it's part of it's something I wish I could have carried on and gone on for a lot longer. But, when pro wrestling knocked on my door, it was, I needed to do that. It was a great move for me.
I know that you arm wrestled Gary Goodridge, not in competition, but in bars and stuff outside of
competition. It wasn't in bars. It was after tournaments.
Okay.
Gary's quite a bit younger than I was or him. And Gary had a hell of a run. Super strong, super good, but he knows. Believe me. I mean, he just couldn't handle my hand. It was just my hand. To beat Cleve, his hand was the size of a freaking, when he made a fist, like a volleyball. And I just went to work, man. I mean, it was crazy what I did. And it was crazy what Gary did. For Gary to be as good as what he did, with not that his desire is amazing. You see what he does with the MMA. I mean, the guy's an animal. I mean, he has more desire. He's a great athlete, great arm wrestler, world champion, the whole 9 yards. But when I was right, Gary wasn't. Sorry. And I got all the respect for Gary. I'm not saying we all have our time. Everybody has this generation get that generation. What would Devin Lawrence do against Virgil Arcero? Or what would Johnny Walker do with for crying out loud, the guy or Monster Zilla, whatever the heck his name. I mean, Todzilla. It's just what we do. Everybody. And I had my time. Gary had his time. Johnny Brezink has had a long time. But no, I'm really glad you brought this arm wrestling up because I love talking about it. It was something that I absolutely love doing. And what they got going on right now is it's really entertaining to me. I train like an arm wrestler. I mean, my shoulders are gone. They're blown out. I have to have them both replaced, which sucks. I'm not feeling bad for me because I just had both knees replaced. And I think I'm faster on my feet now than I was before. So there's no worries there. But I just I train for it. I train like it. But it's at this point it's kind of unattainable, and that's just the way it is. But it's something it's hard to explain.
What was your training like for arm wrestling as compared to for professional wrestling?
The business is more of a show as far as your physique or whatever, but arm wrestle is straight power to me. I just need to be more explosive and stronger than anybody else. And I got there. I did that. And it's something that when I peaked at over the top, and I mean, I went from arm wrestling Cleve Dean where he was obliterating me. Then the next time I pulled him was half a minute. Then the next time I pulled him was a minute. Then, we just kept, and one day we pulled in Minneapolis, and we went for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, almost 3 minutes. And I knew that I was just getting better and better. And then all of a sudden, here comes over the top. I entered a big tournament in Reno. And in the finals, I wrestled Johnny, and everybody thought Johnny was the only guy who could beat him was Cleve. I mean, he was beating Virgil, he's beating Johnny Walker, he's beating Woolsey, he was beating everybody. George Hood, he's beating them all. Bob Olson. And it was easy. It was just, and I knew that I had what, and then it was time to, this is the biggest tournament. I'm coming in my own. Cleve Dean's my wall, and I'm knocking that son of a bitch down. And I went to work, and to maintain that for, like Johnny's done it for all them years, that that would have been a challenge, but it'd have been fun. It was it's a different sport. It's fun. What we do in the gym to arm wrestle, to get as strong as, right now, these guys, there's so many different training apparatuses and handles. If I'd have had the gear that they're using today, they'd arrest my ass, because I mean, it was just, I use them all, wrist max, and the guy in Russia, I can't remember his name.
Dennis Klempov or something like that, or
Pardon me?
Is it Dennis something? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, exactly. But and it's just, there's all these new handles and all these different angles, and and I use them all, and I try, and some, I got more CBD oil on me when I'm trying to do this, and I'm training so light compared to what I used to train when I was in it. I mean, there are days I 315 on a straight bar, I'd rep it 8, 10, 12 reps, like a warm up. And, I just knew that my upper body strength was just superior to anybody else in arm wrestling, and I needed to be like that, because it's all leverage. And when your hand, I have a pretty good sized hand, but when Cleve Dean just so much bigger, and he's got so much of an advantage on you, and his forearm is 6 inches longer than yours, you got to be strong. And I mean, I did that. I mean, I was curling 150-pound dumbbells, hammer curls, like easy. I mean, it was just, I got to a point where I was so strong and I was so ready, I had to back off from my training, just to heal up. I mean, I put myself through hell, but it worked, because I had some really cool training. Animal was one of my training partners. Animal's a badass in the gym. And we trained, for Joe being on the road and coming back to Minnie and telling me I would be here 1, 2, 3 days, and going to the gym and train, like, I was home resting, and I'd be back in the gym in the afternoon doing, my forearms and grip and work, and hanging like a freaking monkey out pull-up bars and one-arm pull-ups and shit. I mean, it was just crazy. But for what he did, it was great. And Joe was a hell of a training partner. I had them all, and I had Jimmy Younger was a great, inspiration for me as far as helping me out with my training. And man, I mean, I just got stronger than everybody else. So it was a blast. I enjoyed it. It's something like, don't get me wrong, going into pro wrestling was freaking awesome. I love what I did with my professional wrestling career, my time in Japan, my time in the States, and how lucky I was to have that. But if the arm wrestling scene would be like it is today, it's sad. COVID's kind of hurt it a lot right now, and I mean, it's kind of shut it down. But it's a blast, man. It's a great sport. If you're good at it, you understand. If you enjoy watching it, but participate when you can just put all that, it's best, man. It's a great feeling, man. It's a rush, just like my buddy said.
For bench press, deadlift, and squat, what would have been your all-time best numbers on those?
I could deadlift what I wanted. That was crazy. I mean, growing up, working for my dad, the concrete crew, I mean, all of us, his sons, it was Norton and Sons Concrete Construction. My brother Rick was a big guy, he's about 280, 6'2". I was a bigger guy, 6'3", about 300, coming out of high school. My younger brother, he's pretty close to my size. And my old man was a badass as far as a worker. I mean, a hard worker in concrete. We just did it. I mean, when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be with him, swinging a sledgehammer and pressing my dad, just, working. And we did that, and we worked hard as a family, and we got strong. And, when I went into training, it was where guys, they'd have a 185-pound bench. I was benching right out of the gate 350. I mean, it was just crazy. Hawk would always he'd just shake his head at me. He just go, God dang, just, it was just. But I grew up working hard, and deadlift was, I mean, I'm pretty sure if that would have been something that, especially with the straps like they're using today, that Hall dude's a badass, don't get me wrong, but his, with them straps, he's 150, 200 pounds different, because, I mean, that's just a big shrug, and then the bench shirts that they have today. I mean, I topped out 677 on the bench when I was working in Portland, pro wrestling, Pacific Northwest. And Ted Arcidi had a 705, and I was about 8 weeks out from the World Championships. I did 677 like getting out of bed. And I just, and I still had 3 sets left that day that I was going to go up. And the guys training with said, man, just relax and don't injure yourself. You're moving some super heavy weight. So I backed off. And I wrestled Bill Danhar that night in the Texas Bull Rope match. And he blew my tricep off the bone. It was horrible. So that kind of ended my bench press career because, pro wrestling was there, and I mean, that's what I was doing it for, I mean, the contract was just light years ahead of anything, that I accomplished in my arm wrestling world and everything. And it was, I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the opportunity to make the best of it. And, but, those numbers, I mean, I squatted, in the high 8s. And it's something that when you're a heavy bencher, it's hard to get them arms back, to get that bar in you. So these guys are bad, I mean, these top power lifters that can do all 3 are some, they're great athletes. But, my numbers were, I mean, it was a 21, 2,200 pound easy total and probably better, but that wasn't my focus. I wanted to be the best arm wrestler. I mean, the world champ, the best bench in the world would have been great. And in my eyes, Bill Kazmaier is the best bencher ever lived. I don't give a shit. Dude did 661 with no bench shirt. The bench shirt throws 40, 50 pounds on easy. Now they're throwing 200, 300, 400 pounds on, and that's just not what they're doing. I mean, it's just, I don't understand when a guy, has got 1,052-pound bench and he's a great bencher at 740. Well, you're a 740 bencher. You're not 1,050-pound. I mean, they wrap you up in this crap. It's not power to me, So Bill's the best. So, and I know Bill personally is a great dude. We almost, he and I were almost tag partners. but it ended up me and her Jurassic Powers was just fantastic. But you know, the numbers were there, but my focus is, was arm wrestling. I didn't really, I wanted to be the best bench presser in the world, but I didn't want the powerlifting deal wasn't as important.
Now, you grew up with Hawk, Rick Rude, I think Kurt Hennig was around, and I think Wayne Bloom. Did you ever consider getting into wrestling growing up with all those guys that ended up also getting into it?
Man, I'll tell you, they're on me all the time. Hawk. I went to camp with Hawk when he went to Eddie Sharkey's camp. It just wasn't for me yet. I wasn't ready. It's something that it just I was kind of I didn't like crowds. I just was, it just was intimidating to me. And the business was, it was you're putting yourself out there, brother. I'll tell you, I don't care what pro wrestler. His first match, he was petrified. It's so hard to do your first time out. But once you get, you get in that rhythm, you get in that flow, and all of a sudden, this is beautiful. This is easy. But it's just hard to get yourself out there. And I just wasn't ready. And when I was, I did it, and that's like, you asked about, how did I end up being in the business. Well, I was approached by New Japan when I was with the movie Over the Top in Japan. And they said, we're really interested in getting you going, and we'd like to use the pro, we know, Hawk and Rude, Kurt, and all the rest of the guys, I mean, there's a long line of pro wrestlers from Minneapolis, and they made, available to me, and I come home and I find, I finally got a hold of Hawk, because I mean, we didn't have cell phones back then. It was just, you leave a message and you call him, and he calls you back as his Hawk. It says, New Japan, a good company to wrestle for? He says, why? I said, they offered me a pretty damn good contract. He says, you don't take that, Norton, I'll fucking kill you. I said, okay. And it was something, and he explained to me how New Japan was one of the top companies in the world, and it just worked, and it was actually perfect for me, It just Japan fit me to a T, and and that's a two-way street. My style was perfect for them, and what they did was perfect for me. So, but yeah, I really was, pressured to do it, but I was afraid to do it. How's that sound? Not afraid, but wasn't ready. Just wasn't ready for it.
What was your training like for pro wrestling when you finally signed with New Japan?
It was a lot of the same. I mean, and that might have hurt me a little bit, because I mean, I went probably too hard. Masa Saito expects a lot out of you. And he wants you as big, as strong as you could possibly be, man. I mean, and I love Masa. He's one of my he helped me more than anybody alive in this business, man. He was so good to me and such a great friend. But he just wanted you big, strong, and mean. And we tried to do that, and worked my ass off. And it was just, I was, I couldn't do what I did with the injury to my tricep. And if I don't know that was a mental thing or not, it was a serious tear. And my bench press days, they weren't over. I mean, I went from a 677 bencher to a 577 bencher. And it doesn't matter when you're that heavy, I really didn't need to push the weight like that, but I always pushed hard. And it was just, I wish if I, the way I train now and know how to train, I wish I'd have trained like that when I was in the business, because I'd have probably been, not more successful, but I'd have been less beat up. That's for sure. because you can't beat yourself up on both sides of it. That's what, we went hard and strong. And if we could have went lighter and more reps and more discipline as far as recovery time and everything, but we weren't programmed like that. We were just straight ahead monsters, and I mean, and I remember Rick Steiner when him and his brother Scotty were on the road with WWF. They came to Portland, and I lived in Portland when I was working in Japan, and they wanted to meet me at my gym and have a workout. I said, cool. So Scotty was doing arm or chest and tries that day, and I already did them that week. And Robbie was doing squats. I said, I'll squat with you. And the dude's on the roll, man. And I mean, he went up to 750 on the bar. And I mean, Robbie's a monster, an animal. And I mean, I just got back from Japan, and I was on a 5-week tour over there, and I mean, and we're just jacking this iron. I mean, it's just crazy. And I look back, and I mean, we could have done the same thing with 4 or 5 on the bar, getting the reps, you know what I'm saying, and taking a lot less pounding. But our routines were different, and I know these guys. I'll promise you, guys like The Rock. I mean, he's got a physique, unbelievable. And these, Roman Reigns and these guys, they're not trained like we did. They're training way, way more to, recovery. We didn't give a crap about recovery. We just gave crap about pounding iron and being as powerful as you can be. And, maybe it worked for us, but it don't always work for the long run.
What was Hawk like in high school? He's hard to imagine as a kid.
Oh, God. Pretty much same way, man. Hawk was 100 miles an hour. Aggressive kid, man. I mean, Hawk was, I don't know anybody. Oh, I do, but not too many people that have as many best friends as Hawk. Everybody in our high school was best friends with Mike, and Mike had time for everybody. But it would come down to the side about Mike was a brawler. Mike enjoyed it, man, and he was damn good at it. And he's a very loyal friend. Mike was God. I mean, to explain him, I mean, it's just kind of like, put it this way, where he ended up being Road Warrior Hawk. That's Mike. He was already Road Warrior Hawk in high school. How's that sound? He was too, brother. I mean, we used to work at bars. We were bouncers in different bars, and the phone would ring, and Danny would listen. Go, Scott, Hawk's on the phone. I go, hey, Mike, what's going on? He says, well, I knocked out one guy tonight. How many you knocked out? I said, Mike ain't knocked nobody out. Phone ring about an hour later. Hey, Norts, that's 2. Well, why don't you settle down a little bit, Mike? I mean, we're supposed to stop this crap. We're not supposed to be doing it. So that was, Mike was, he was already kind of like, put it this way, he'd have been perfect in the movie or the series Vikings.
And what about Rick Rude, another guy that was legendary for his toughness?
Boy, he was just a tough, gritty son of a gun. Man. Rick was just, it was amazing that him and Hawk never went. And I mean, went to war. Because they bickered. They went back and forth hard. But Rick was just a gritty, tough guy. I remember Rick's dad owned a bar. And Rick was going outside with grown men, 16, 17 years old, and he did okay, man. I mean, Rick was just a double tough guy, man. And I tell you something, nobody, just fearless and absolutely a badass. And You know, he wanted your respect, and he gave it, and that was the best part of Rick. You know, Rick was another guy, man. I mean, he had your back. He was a friend. You know, and I mean, when you know, we called ourselves North Siders in Minneapolis. We grew up on the North Side, and that meant a lot to us. I mean, when you're had buddies that you'd do anything for, anything. Rick was that kind of guy. Hawk was that kind of guy. I mean, if I knew it would never happen, I wouldn't let it. I mean, I would do anything I had to do to stop it from happening. If it was, you know, something was going to happen to Mike, or if something was going to happen to me, I mean, we had each other. It was important to us. I mean, and to a fault, you know, I mean, but that's who we were as kids. And, you know, I mean, that carried on through our lives. And Rick, Hawk, Kurt, you know, Rick started out with me in high school, junior high school. Then, you know, his dad moved to a different Robbinsville where Kurt, John Norton, Wayne Bloom, and all those guys went, but we always stayed friends. And when we got in our later teens, early 20s, we're all buddies. And most loyal friends you could ever, I don't know how to explain it, you know, I mean, just best buddies. I mean, I was so fortunate as a young guy growing up with they all turned into superstars. I mean, I tried to get to, you know, I mean, I don't know where I ended up in the pecking order, and I don't really care. I know what I did, and I know what I wanted to do, and I did my best, you know. And these guys, you know, I mean, they're some of the very, very best at what they did, but you know, we had each other's back through all of it. I remember Rick Rude, when I was really rolling in New Japan. He came in with WCW, and I haven't seen Rick in probably 2, 3 years. And you know, he walked up to me, gave me a hug. He says, "Man," he says, "I'm really happy for you, man. All the respect." He says, "I love you, dude." And he says, "You know, this is just the tip of the iceberg, Scott." He says, "Man, there's so much more here for you." He says, "You just keep doing what you're doing." And it just paralyzed me because it was us at home again. You know what I mean? It was like, no matter what the odds were back in the streets of any bar, any situation, the dude wouldn't leave it, no matter what. And it was it's just something that we got, you know. And then, yeah, man, it's important to us.
I guess when you were signed to WCW, was that through New Japan? You continued on with them that whole time as well?
Well, it's kind of different in Japan, because when you go work for New Japan, you get a couple 3 years in, then they kind of want you to go to either Europe or the States. They do that with their guys. They did it with me. They asked me if I wanted to go away for a year, and I said, "Well, not really." And you know, I wasn't really comfortable. And they said, "Well, we, you know, always have this door open for you." And Masa told me that, and I trust Masa mainly. So, anyways, I got the call from New York when they heard I was available, and I went in, met with Vince, interviewed with him, had a great interview, and it was really good, you know. And he said, "We'd really like to take a shot, see what you got, take a look at you in a dark match, and we'll go from there." So, you know, they flew me in first class. It was beautiful. It was all really nice, you know, just what I was used to, you know, my travels in Japan and everything. And so I went back home, and I told my wife, you know, they're to give me a look, you know, I'm going to wrestle a guy and I didn't know who. They told me it wouldn't be the top guy or anything. It'd just be a dark match. So I went to not Orlando. God darn it, keep forgetting the name of that city in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I went to Fort Lauderdale, and I just got married. Vince paid for my wife to come and got us a nice hotel suite on the beach. It was awesome. So, anyways, I wrestled Sparky Plug that night. Did a dark match, had a pretty decent match with him. And next day, or a couple days later, I think it was 4 days, he let me stay down there, and they took care of everything. And went back to Portland, and also I got a call from J.J. Dillon. They says, yeah, Vince really wants to talk to you. So I went in and talked to him. And he says, kid, he says, I'm going to make you a millionaire. And I said, well, sounds good to me. And we started talking everything. And also we started talking numbers. And, he didn't want to put anything down on paper. He just says, I promise you, I'll take care of you, And New Japan was always there for me. I could have left and done this what they wanted me to do, but if I didn't find work that I wanted, I could come back. So I said no. And I just told Vince, I says, I can't leave that. And so anyways, I flew home from New Jersey to Portland, center seat coach, and took a taxi to the airport where I was doing limos and everything. He was pissed. But just the way it worked, So anyways, when I got home, and I called Masa up, I said, Masa, said, didn't go too good, Vince. He says, yeah, I didn't think it would. And he says, I'll talk to the office. We'll get you back working with us. And all of a sudden, I hang the phone up with Masa, and about an hour later, I get a phone call, and Eric Bishop on the phone. He says, what in the hell are you doing? I says, what do you mean? It was kind of aggressive and everything. He says, why didn't you call me? And I said, well, WWE called me, and all of a sudden, and all of a sudden he brought me in. And so I went there for an interview, and, he basically met Eric, and I was in his office about 2 minutes, and we ended up at a Mexican bar across the street from the CNN building, had drinks all afternoon. So anyways, went to WCW for a short time, and all of a sudden, an NWO happened. And then New Japan was in serious talks with WCW. I had no idea. Then all of a sudden the deal was, where the NWO was already cooked up. I don't know if they had me being a part of it early on or whatever, but I was included in. And then all of a sudden, my contract that I had with WCW was probably 4 months into it. And I wasn't going with New Japan no longer. Then all of a sudden, New Japan and NWO came together, and I'm back with New Japan and WCW, which was great for me. Very fortunate for what happened. Anybody can work two top territories at the same time is a pretty lucky guy, and I was that guy, And I don't know if I brought it to NWO to Japan, but I was the guy, the American that kind of was bringing to Japan, WC or NW or the NWO to New Japan. Too many doggone letters there, but and it was awesome.
Did you interact much with Hulk Hogan when you were with the NWO?
No, and it was kind of I don't know. A lot of guys did, I guess. Had some great talks with Hogan and sometimes, but no, not much. Not like other guys did. I wasn't the kind of guy like, hey, Hulkster, how you doing, man? I didn't, pat him on the back a lot. He's just another dude to me. Great talent, wrestler, freaking him. after leaving the business, he don't get as much credit as he deserves for the worker he was. He's a great fucking worker. Great wrestler. Way better than, just being the guy taking your vitamins and all this crap and flexing. He was a hell of a worker. He did a hell of a job, man. And I was a little different, kind of, I don't, a lot of guys kind of marked out on Hogan, you know what I mean? And I wasn't comfortable being like that because it wasn't me, and hanging around these, the elite superstars in our business, I didn't change me. And I don't know if that rubs somebody differently or wrong, but I'm not being somebody I'm not to get him to take a different, aspect towards me or look towards me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a different world where, I mean, it's different, man. I just, I don't want to say anything negative about Hogan, but I wouldn't have done what a lot of guys did do to get his attention, and that just isn't going to happen. So.
Now, I know a guy that you did get along well with was Haku, who I think you knew from Japan and WCW. Could you tell us any stories about him?
God, yeah. I mean, what really, this is something that just happened, and it was so important in my life. It was, I left New Japan for a period of time, and I was doing a book signing and out west when I got my book out going and everything. And this is when the crew Omega and all the top guys, man, they were just roaring. And I finally got invited back to New Japan. I don't know how the communication broke down between us, but everybody that was loyal to me in New Japan had left. So, anyways, I haven't seen Haku in 5 years, and me and Haku had not a huge history here in the States as far as wrestling each other, but Japan was monstrous. We wrestled each other a lot, and they, the Silverbacks going at it again tonight. And when we did it, we did it. And I mean, it was just, I get asked a question all the time about Haku. Is he the toughest guy you ever wrestled? And yeah, he is the toughest guy I ever wrestled, but he's also the best person I've ever wrestled. People don't understand the man. He's one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And, I mean, I'm fortunate because I got a lot of friends like that, but Haku stands out, man. And so getting invited back to New Japan, and we're at the lobby of the hotel, and I got, Haku comes walking in. All of a sudden, I was waiting. I'm waiting in the lobby for him. I haven't seen him in years. And we came together, and we hugged, and we just started talking. And he's looking at me, and it just, we're exchanging our feelings and embracing and just enjoying each other. And he says, brother, he says, look at these young guys. They need to see this. Respect what we have. They're young. They don't understand. It's very important for them. And I look around the room and everybody just like standing with their mouths open. All these top kids, man, and they're great. They're great. Our pro wrestlers, and they're phenomenal. And I'm just going, this is a person that I respect as much as anybody in my life. And it was just this special thing that we shared, because you always want people to respect who you are and what you've done. But that day, it was just so different because I mean, I've never left anybody awestruck before, but they were. They were just, they're looking at, I mean, Ming's family, his son, his kids are just standing there, they're looking at us there. But what we shared was so important to the room. And it's something that, you know, just it's part of me, you know, I mean, and for him to show me that throughout the years means so much to me. And, you know, we poured our blood, sweat, and tears in this business, and you work your tail off, man. You work your ass off. We all have. Everybody did. And, you know, to be put not in that category, but for that time, that minute, that 5 minutes, I'll never forget that as long as I live. And it's just something that, you know, I can share with you. And I hope I'm sharing it as, you know, as well as it happened. But it was just a special time, man. It's just unbelievable.
A lot of people have documented that you had a really bad experience during WCW's North Korea tour. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did have a bad experience. All right. Get a little hoarse here. But North Korea was an eye-opening, brother. I had no idea what I was getting. None. When Masa Saito and Hattori walked up to me in the locker room and said, Scott, after this, we go to North Korea. I said, okay. I mean, you know, I knew that it was a communist country. I didn't, you know, I thought I'd be going to Russia or something. And man, I was wrong. But so, anyways, the episode that I had that was so, even, you know, today, I should have been dead. They should have, you know, it just shouldn't have made it through this. I just got married. You know, when I'm on the road, I stay in touch with my wife. I tried to call home for 3 days from North Korea. To make a phone call there was impossible. Excuse me. So, anyways, I'd have to go down to the basement to the operator and tell her the number, pay her, and then I'd run up. The elevators didn't work in this huge hotel in North Korea, which is probably the only hotel in North Korea. And I had to run 7 flights of stairs, and I could hear the phone ringing. And by the time I got to my phone, when I picked it up, dead. So I tried to go home for 3 days. Couldn't get home through. And all these Americans from the WCWs with us and everything. So finally, they let me call home. When I got to my room, I grabbed the phone and I got to my wife. I got to talk to her. She was so mad at me. She just started chewing my ass out. And like I was abusing our marriage. And I was out all night with the boys. I says, Tammy, you do not understand what kind of shithole I'm in here. Boom, just like that, the phone goes blank. And I'm going, she hung up on me. $17 a minute. I've been running up and down these stairs for 3 days. I'm telling you, I tried 30 times. It was just, I was so pissed off. So I'm sitting there and I'm on my end of my bed. I'm going, what the F? And she, you know, I finally get through and all of a sudden I get a pound and knock on my door. Boom, boom, boom. And when I answer the door, I'm ready to take this son of a bitch out on the other end because I'm pissed. Here's 4 guards with this dude, and they got guns. And they told me, they says, come with us. And I'm going, what the hell's going on here? And they took me out of the room, not by force, but they persuaded me. So the elevators worked. They just wouldn't let us use them. Down the elevator we went, right past that little operator room where I was trying to make these phone calls for all that time. And we went down this like a freaking tunnel. And they put me in a room. And I'm like, now I'm scared to death. And all of a sudden the door bangs open. And this guy comes in with these guards, and they're all armed, military people. And he looks at me, and I mean, if looks could kill, I was dead. And I'm just sitting there going, what have I gotten myself into here? I mean, nobody knows I'm down here. Nobody knows where I'm at. And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm dead. And if it wouldn't have been, I still believe this. If Muhammad Ali wasn't on that tour with us in Anoki, I'd be gone. Especially after years later, when that warm beer college student took a poster off the wall in a hotel room, which were on our walls in the hotel room, and they did what they did to that kid. I'd have been executed in public. It was, and I mean, I sat there and I seen what they did to that poor guy. I mean, they sent him back to America with all of his teeth pulled out of his mouth and just set him in his mouth and just placed him back where they're supposed to be. And he was brain dead. They beat him, they tortured him to death. And I mean, to get out of there with hope. And I was, frightened for my life. And I'm trying not to be frightened too often, I guess.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like too much fun. There's a fan that wanted to know if you ever had to save Buff Bagwell. He's known for running his mouth from time to time.
Yeah, not really save him, but kind of just get in between it. Buff was had a lot of fun. Buff was the funnest guy to go out with. He was just a great guy all the time. And Buff was a little red. He had a little cockiness to him. He was Buff got into his share of the
Well, I'm glad it wasn't anything too serious.
No, but I mean, Buff's a pretty tough guy. I mean, it surprised you.
Another fan wanted to know if WWE ever made you an offer once WCW closed to come back.
No, never came back. I mean, they knew where I was going. They knew what I wanted to do. I mean, being New Japan fit like a glove, brother. It was just, and I don't, maybe I could have pursued it. I probably thought, but no.
How did you get along with Masahiro Chono over in Japan?
Fantastically. Can we take a break for a second, please?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're almost done now anyways.
I got to use the restroom. 1 minute.
Okay.
You're not on live, right?
Only for some.
Okay.
Well, I just you ain't got one. Shit. No way. So no, I've been sitting there trying to follow you, damn it. He seems like such a nice guy. Okay. Now you know I had to go to the restroom.
Yeah. So Masahiro Chono, I was asking about.
Oh, I love him. I mean, Chono is like him, Hashimoto and Muda came up at the same time as I did. So we're kind of like those are the three musketeers in Japan. And then it was kind of like me and Benoit, the Americans. And we all just worked our tails off. We did as best we could, but me, Chono, Muda, and Hashimoto got great history together. Unbelievable. In the ring, outside the ring. Well, Chono always traveled with the Americans. And Hashimoto and Muda never did. So we got to become really good friends. And like after New Japan broke off, Chono had really good sponsors in Japan. And he gave me a belt, a Team 2000 belt. That's absolutely, it's just badass to the bone. I mean, it's unreal. I got it at home still. It's in a big case and everything. But he was just a special friend where he would do super nice, cool things for, Arias Trish. He made that, that thing is going strong as hell for him. Sean is just the best guy, man. And just a lot of fun. It's kind of pretty dry humor. Chono's that's I haven't been asked a lot of questions about Chono, and it's kind of weird, but great guy. I love his wife. He's just and great guy to be a part of with the work we did in New Japan, Team 2000, NWO. Dude was over, brother. I mean, just like a rock star, and he's still doing great. So very happy for him. Very grateful for his friendship. He's a good buddy.
I imagine the sponsors must have taken care of you pretty well over there as far as these dinners and trips to fancy restaurants and bars.
Oh God, I started feeling guilty sometimes. I mean, I would go out for dinner, and a lot of the top guys. I mean, this is, you go out for dinner. They said bring some of your friends, and I'm okay, and I bring some of the guys, and we just make unbelievable meals. At the end of the night, they give you a freaking envelope, $500,000 in it, and I'm just going, God, man, the kind of just, I almost got to a point where they, it was kind of getting out of hand. Where you're out every damn night, what I mean? And that wouldn't happen all the time, but it would happen, and how am I trying to put this where I'm not trying to say the other guys did, but I didn't want to, abuse their kindness and friendship. Every time I go back to Japan, there's 3-4 really cool dudes that we go take food tonight, go take dinner, what I mean? Well, there's 3-4, unless you got a lot of time, you're not going to be able to get them all in there, what I mean? But yeah, we had some of the most spectacular meals. New Japan took care of us. Unbelievable. I mean, that's one thing that we did over there is had great camaraderie with the boys in some hotels and some restaurants that were just phenomenal.
Last guy I'll ask you about is Goldberg. He's still with WWE in the main angles. You wrestled him in WCW. What are your thoughts on him and all the success he's had over the years?
Oh, Bill's a stud, man. Bill had a different look. You know, his persona was phenomenal. He was a lot of guys. How do I put this without trying to really? They're very. They didn't think he worked hard enough for what he got, and to me, okay, maybe he didn't have to. You know what I'm saying? I remember in Chicago, he hit me. He hit me with a jackhammer, and he's holding me up there, and the flashes, and I'm talking to Bill. Bill just because it was. I mean, it's sort of like you know Muhammad Ali coming out of a hotel or something after a world championship fight, and all the cameras are flashing. You know, he's got all this, but he was just different, man. I mean, when you got Goldberg going on Goldberg, and these people just go nuts for him. You know, maybe it took him less to get the people to respond to him, but he got them, and you know they're kind of jealous of that. I always put Bill in a favorable light to where I mean, can't take nothing away from the dude, man. I mean, is he the best wrestler in the business? Not even close. Does he get the responses you need? Yeah. And a lot of guys got to work their ass off to get that kind of pop. It just comes natural, Bill. And, that's more power to him, And, I don't know what position to use. I've kind of got away from
He's
watching.
getting a title match coming up at the Royal Rumble, apparently.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, you can't. I mean, look how long. I mean, okay. I was just saying, look how long Flair lasted. Two totally different people. Flair's the greatest entertainer. Rick entertained the hell out of me once I even knew what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? He was so freaking fun and such a. I mean, I watch even my beloved New Japan. Me and Eric did a interview one time together, which is really kind of awkward for me at the time. But, it just didn't happen. And they asked us about what I thought about pro wrestling now compared to what I was doing. And I just stated that, what we did was, more power and big men. And today kind of reminds me of Circus of Life. I mean, some of the things they're doing in the ring is, I mean, it shows that they're great athletes, but, it just doesn't work for me. I mean, I see some great matches, but I just see a lot of it's just kind of nuts. And, Rick is just an amazing entertainer. And that's just like getting back to about Bill. People, Bill didn't have to work that hard to get that kind of response because of his persona, what he brought to the ring, his entrance, I mean, it was just, he was a damn phenom, brother. And I mean, look how long it's lasting. I had no idea Bill was getting ready for a title match. And that's probably my fault. But, I got other things going on in my life right now. I just got done with some surgeries and stuff and getting healthy. Nothing serious, a couple knee replacements, gonna get the shoulders done. Hell, you might see me back in the ring one day. I tell you.
I'm sure you could beat up half the wrestlers in there today, more than half with the size of them these days.
Wow, that's okay. I mean, shit, I've been doing that my whole life. I mean, that's it's just it's really not, that's like that it means something to have that people think that of you, but in our business, they don't think that of me. We respect each other. We care about each other. And I can go in the room and, we're just a great group of guys. And it's a blast to be part of, And it'd take me a good long time to get the rust knocked off. Damn sure. But, I don't know, brother. It just beat somebody's ass in the ring ain't like it is in the street.
Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk with us. I know.
You know what? You don't deserve Scott Norton's time anymore, Hannibal. You should have said
Oh,
thanks a
Captain,
long
come
time
on.
ago. I'm sitting over here. Scott was going to give you some of his time, and you kept stretching and you kept stretching, and you take advantage because that's what you do. You take advantage of good-natured people like Scott Flash Norton. And you know what? We're done with the Hannibal. I'm not going to give you the pleasure of signing off.
I want to see a clothesline from Scott on you.
You know what? I want to see a clothesline from me on you. Good night.